What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and I want to thank you guys for joining me for another Silmarillion Total War replay video. Today I've got a 3 vs 3 on the Tarn Aeluin map. We actually do this one on stream alongside Scouts of Entertainment and UMAD Commander, who will both be in this battle together. So without any further ado, let's jump into it, because this is a really cool line battle, and I think you guys are going to have a blast. So the first arm we're going to look at today is the forces of Doriath, being played by myself. I've brought 2 units here of the Shield Bearers of Region. I've got, I believe, 2 to 3 companies of the Sword Host, 2 companies of Spear Host of the Girdle, 2 Marksmen of Region, which I intend to use to try and delay at least elements of my opponent's armies once they begin to advance. I've brought a whole whopping 1 unit of the Mounted Company of Region, because I wanted to focus more on my infantry. I've got some Donath and Mablung, which means the Fists of Mablung, having to do with his honorific of the heavy hand, as he would use a mace in combat. I've also got all the real good stuff you'd expect from Doriath: 3 units of Warriors of Region and 3 units of Axguard of Region. Now, my initial plan here with my deployment, that I'd just like to talk about briefly before we move on, is that I was expecting my enemy to come across here. They did have a deployment zone on this side of the cliff, so I was expecting maybe some kind of rush. So what I was going to do is try and hold them off for as long as I could with the majority of my army, including some pretty strong elements like my Sword Host, Shield Bearers, and all that other good stuff. And then I was going to use the rest of my army to go to the aid of my ally. As I didn't really expect that Angband would commit everything across here, I expected they'd do kind of something similar to what I was doing. So I left enough forces behind to try and fight them. But let's move on now to my ally here. First unit, or the first army of Feanor, being played by Scouts of Entertainment. And I assume you'll be able to see this battle on his channel as at some point as well, though he may not do it as he already did stream it. But in any case, we got 1 unit here of the Otorn Maitimo, which is the Oathsworn of Maedhros, Maitimo being his Noldoran name in Quenya, and I think it was given to him by his mother or his father or something. But Maedhros is a Sindarin adaptation of his first name. Next, we've got some Archers of Amrod here, 2 units of them with their armor upgrades. They're very tanky. Of course, we've got some Roqueni Magloro and this officer here who likes to stand on top of his horse. I really do need to fix that one of these days. See, a whole 2 units there? No, he's just got 1. He's got 2 companies, I believe, of the Riders of the Pass. He's also got some Mounted Company of Kurufin mixed in there. A couple companies of the Huntsmen of Thargelion, who are a light archer with bonuses in certain terrain, like Forest, for example. They've also got that 2-handed spear you see on their back, which can make them a pretty scary thing for cavalry to charge into. He's got a couple companies here of the Defenders of Aglon without their armor upgrade, meaning that they weigh in, I believe, about, I think it's like 10 or so armor, or something like that. Maybe it's 11. Got some Footmen of Amaras here, I believe 3 companies of them, with their armor upgrade, which means they're going to be weighing in at a whopping 12 armor, which is very, very good for this mod. I've also got some Stalkers of Thargelion here, and I think just 1 unit, maybe 2 units packed in together. It seems like 2 units packed in together. And we've also got some Rangers of Hellvorn here as well, which are a dedicated Javelin unit. The Stalkers do throw a projectile. They have a Javelin projectile, but it's not armor piercing. That's more for the dedicated skirmish unit here of the Rangers of Hellvorn. I think that's the entirety of his army. A good mix of cavalry and infantry elements. Moving on now to the second House of Feanor army. That one's being commanded by Uruke. I never know how to say his name. Is it Uruke, Urukai, with just an extra E, and the E is throwing me off? I don't know. I'm going to go with Uruke, because that seems most natural to me. He's got his Defenders of Aglon with their armor upgrade. You can see that fancy red lacquered plate. And he's got 2 companies of them. He's also got a solid front line here of upgraded Footmen of Amaras. He's got some Archers of Amrod without their armor upgrade. He's got his own Rangers of Hellvorn here, I believe to the tune of 2 companies. There's the second unit of the Defenders. He's got Stalkers of Thargelion himself, 140 here, 140 on the other wing. I think there's a detachment of them running around somewhere. And of course, being the Sons of Feanor, he's brought some cavalry. Mounted Company of Kurufin, 2 units here of the Mounted Company of Kelagorm, heavy lancer units. Roqueni Magloro, more of the Mounted Company of Kurufin. And I think that's pretty well it for our team, so let's pop across the field and see what the Forces of Darkness have brought to the battle today. First army we're going to look at is that of UMAD Commander. He's got some Spear Guard of the Iron Crown here on his front line. I believe 2 units of them here, and they are backed up with some Guardians of the Iron Crown, which are a mace unit. I think they're in here somewhere. He's got Iron Shod Reavers, to the tune of 2 or 3 units of the Iron Shod Reavers, which are a little bit more of a damage-dealing kind of focused unit, rather than the Legionnaires, who focus a bit more on their melee defense. Iron Shod Halberds here, 2-3 companies of them. Got a detachment of the Arbalists. Uruloki, because of course we have some Uruloki. Deadly units, especially to more lightly armed foes. They're really more of a danger to me than they are to the House of Feanor. And a detachment of the Guardians of the Iron Crown as well. I think that's just about everything. No, he's got some Bulldogs over here as well. Some more Iron Shod Ravagers, which are a 2-handed axe unit. Oh wow, he's got a ton more stuff. Trollguard Gothmog, and of course the mighty and fearsome Valaraukar, the Balrogs of Morgoth. And then we've got some Arbalists here, and some Wretches. 2 companies here of the Wretches. Let's move on now to his ally. I believe this is the army of Tolin Gaurhoth, being commanded by King of Isengard Artorius, who's one of our very active testers on the Discord. He's brought some Gijak Skaras Chosen, 2 companies of them here on the front line. He's also got some Laugskaras, Hishburkras Agurkalab, Thrangshik Wolfborn, and some Hishburkras Ash Priests as well, who are very, very strong. They have special animations to make them unstunnable, and they've got 3 HP, which is mitigated by the fact that they have very, very low armor and shield values. They're a scary unit in melee, but you have to get them into melee first. And they've also got a projectile as well that can be very deadly, but leaving them out in the open is just asking your enemies to focus fire them down and shoot them, which will happen very, very quickly. He's also brought some Hishburkras Howlers, which are an excellent tar pit. They are locked morale. They have okay damage. Their defense stats aren't that great, so they will die in large numbers. But you can use them for all kinds of very devious strategies. Bogging down your enemies so you can hit them with mangonels because you don't care if you lose your Howlers or not. All kinds of stuff. He's also brought some Longfangs, who have a non-armor piercing missile in our current tournament patch. And it's looking like 4 companies there of the Skarahai Longfangs. And I know for a fact that he's actually got 2 units of the Thrangshik Wolfborn. He's gone really, really hard on his cavalry in this, and you're going to see how that plays out later on in the match. Moving on over here, we have the 3rd and final evil army, this one being commanded by Tundra's Fox. He's got some Iron Shod Arbalists, 1 company of them right here. I think he's got another one lying around somewheres. Saw some Bulldogs in the back there. Wretches of Angband, 2 companies of. Iron Shod Legionnaire, so a little bit more melee defense focused variant of the Iron Shod Infantry. There's the Bulldogs that I spoke of earlier. Some Arbalists here, a detachment of them, so he's got a full unit and a detachment. He's got some Valaraukar, and he's also got Trollguard Gothmog. He's very, very spread out here. Iron Shod Legionnaires, and I expect that we're going to see some units come out of here as well. There's a lot of places that he can hide in this area, and I know for a fact that he's got some Uruloki. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. I hope you guys enjoy it. So in the opening stages, I'm going to see that Angband has put nothing over here. So I'm going to immediately shift my army and move them to the aid of my allies, who you can see are moving into position to take up a strong spot in that pass over on the other side of the lake. And Angband, it looks like, is going to do something similar, although I think Tundra's Fox is going to leave some troops behind in the event that maybe I try to get cheeky and come around with some cavalry. Though there are stakes in the way, they could be avoided. It's not a terrible idea, especially since what he's keeping back are Wretches, and Wretches can hold the line here indefinitely against my pitiful cavalry force. What do we got here? I got some Hishburkras Hunters, which I didn't see earlier, as they are able to hide anywhere. More units coming out of the woodwork. Yes, we've got some Wolf Riders, Iron Shod Legionaries, 2 units of Wolf Riders from the looks of things, some Iron Shod Ravagers, a lot more of these ants here, literally coming out of the woodwork in this forested area over on this end of the map. So the Angband army of Tundra's Fox is a little bit larger than I think we initially realized. My allies, the 2 armies of the Sons of Feanor, have very boldly moved forward, and they're going to begin to harass our enemies as they move themselves into position. Although a lot of these units are shielded and reasonably well armored, so they will be able to stand up to that punishment for quite some time. Although it has to be said that they have chosen their targets very well. The Iron Shod Halberdiers are a big threat to us, being polearms. We can't really match their range, which is a big ace in the hole that Angband has. It kind of prevents their front lines from crumbling. So going after them is a good idea. That's just plain old good target prioritization. So the cavalry of Artorias has been moved forward in force, but they are kind of blobbed up right now. That's something that I remember pointing out to my allies, is that this is just fodder for the horse archers on our side. And you can see them really beginning to lay down the pain here. Wargs and halberdiers falling in quick succession, and DT Artorias is going to have to pull back. I think he realizes that he overextended a little bit in the face of the range superiority of the Sons of Feanor, and so he's going to pull back a little bit behind his lines and try and minimize his losses. Over here, Mounted Company of Kurufin from both Uruke. I believe they are being brought forward by Scouts of Entertainment as well. Ooh, what do we got here? A very bold charge here by the Lancer, the entire Lancer strength, in fact, of Uruke, although it looks like he's going to pull out of there at the last moment. Actually, honestly, the wretches are really cost-effective against cavalry, but they can be broken just so easily, especially in the absence of morale support or any infantry support as well. So hitting it from behind, you could just crush half the unit and maybe get it to a position where it's not really ready to fight any longer. So Mounted Company Kurufin here, going forward against the wretches. Not the best idea, but honestly the wretches weren't braced, so they're not going to be able to reflect the charge damage of the Mounted Company of Kurufin back at them. DT Artorias moving forward with his Hisprukaraz Zagurkalab, tossing their flaming javelins. And there's a company here of the Laugskaraz Zagurkalab who are going to take point and chase off those Mounted Companies. So he lost a little bit there. He started to get shaken because of the presence of all of these scary units. Yeah, but, he did okay, and he does kind of like stop them from moving forward. It does delay their advance and force them to reform and kind of rethink their strategy when it comes to moving, and which is probably not a bad idea. Scouts is still trying to get himself into position with his infantry lineup. The only one who was able to get here quickly was Uruke because of where he was positioned, and of course my army is still bringing up the rear, so they need to play for time a little bit, which I think is a sound strategy. My troops are going to be coming up here through the township, up through the center. I've got some Warriors of Doriath, some Axe Guard as well. My intent here was just to take up strong positions and then move them out of them later once my allies were able to get into position. So if they were rushed down more quickly by Angband and their allies, then at least we'd have kind of like some fallback positions and some choke points that would still remain in our possession, and it wouldn't be a complete disaster. Maybe something that we could turn around once we had a moment to reform and kind of get ourselves back in position. I've also moved two of my units of, I think 1 unit of Axe Guard and 2 units of Axe Guard and 1 unit of the Warriors of Region. Now the important thing to note about the Warriors of Region, which is something that I covered in my meta video, which if you haven't watched it, I recommend that you do so. It will enhance your enjoyment of the strategic plays and the tactical decisions in this game. But the important thing about them is that A, they're armor piercing, and A and B, they've got a bonus versus elephants. They're going to be particularly powerful for dealing with the Uruloki, who I expect to be committed to melee very quickly, as their fire damage is of limited use in this matchup. Huntsman Arthur Argelion from Scouts of Entertainment, doing their best. I think they're going after the Ironshot Arbalists. Not a bad idea. That's really the best target I think that they have available to them. They've got lower end missile damage, so they're a bit better against lighter troops. A little bit more effective probably against Tolin Gaurhoth than against the enemies just across from them. But they are going to be able to make some headway here against the Ironshot Arbalists and maybe hit a few of the Uruloki. Who knows? Maybe they'll get lucky and they'll shave off an HP from the Uruloki, which will help us in the long run. Ooh, the Ironshot Reavers as well. Don't have a lot of shield value. Their armor's okay, so they're not taking huge damage from this, but it does hurt, especially given the very long column-shaped formation that they're in. It does maximize the amount of damage that those units do against them. Let's see what we got going on over here. Yes, the Uruloki of Tundra's Fox have come out of hiding. I have no idea where they were, but they're moving forward along with an advance guard of 2 units of Wolf Riders of Angband. And so they're looking for that surround here, which is potentially tough for us. I mean, Uruloki and their cav behind our lines, and then there's, of course, this large area over here, which will allow them to potentially very sneakily skirt cavalry around into our back once we're focused on the infantry fight. So there's a lot of options here for the evil team. And we've taken up a very strong position. We've got a nice layered defense being set up, and of course we've got myself and my reserve Doriath units to bring up the rear. So we can potentially defend against it, but as the battle rages on, maybe they'll wait and they'll choose a really good opportune moment to spring that attack on us. So we'll see what happens here. Let's kick it up now to full speed. Skirmishing still happening here. Iron Shot Arbalist taking fairly limited casualties, I think, from the Huntsman of Thargelion. Not a lot has been done to the Spear Guard here. A few errant arrows have managed to do some damage to them. Actually, this one's dropped by about 11 men, which is surprising, given that they are very heavily armored and have great shield values. But it looks like the forces of the red team are just getting themselves into position. Still taking time here to wait for their armies to be completely marshaled. And I actually really like this map. So we've got similar kind of situations. They've got this town here in the center that kind of mirrors ours on the other side. So they have some choke points, and they've also got some kind of like hindrances in getting through this area. So it's a nicely balanced map, I feel. And what do we got here? Some Throng Sheik Wolfborn from DT King of Isengard, who's going to be bringing them around to our doom, potentially. I think he's got a second company of them around here as well. So having two of those being set up for our back lines is really important. And we definitely didn't see this in-game. We had no idea. We certainly saw the obviously telegraphed attack of the Wolf Riders of Angband, plus the Uruloki slowly waddling their way into position. And obviously we've acted accordingly. I've got my mounted company of Region in the back here. And we've got lots of cavalry and such from the Sons of Feanor, so lots and lots of options. But now things are going to really start to kick off, so we're going to go ahead and just slow things down a little bit. Ooh, javelins here being used by the Rangers of Helleborn. That's really unfortunate. The arm-piercing javelins are probably a little bit better saved for some other units. Let's see if they get another one off. They're going to broadside these poor Laugskaras and other things here too, though. Oof. Yeah, that's real nasty. And DT King of Isengard is gonna kick it into high gear here. And I saw this going around. I didn't have any spear units nearby, and I figured I could just trap them and just let them get behind the lines and then hit them with my my cavalry, who you can already see is hightailing it over to my left wing so that we can shut this down quick. 2 units here of Laugskara Zagulkalab now behind our lines. Really nice play here by the part of DT Artorius. Oh, Uruloki already taking some pot shots here. And they chose their target well. The Stalkers of Thargelion don't have great morale. And they are lightly armored. This is exactly the kind of unit that the Uruloki prey very, very easily on. And that is going to rout them off. And they're going to break ranks and flee behind the protective barrier here of the footmen of Amrod. They will be able to reform a little bit later. But yeah, that Uruloki is still taking bites out of them. Really, really good use of that unit there. Let's go ahead and slow things down just a little bit. Front lines have clashed here. And it seems that the upper hand is going to the red team so far. Some Wretches of Angband now engaging massed ranks of infantry. Stalkers of Thargelion and Footmen of Amras holding together, but with the Troll Guard of Gothmog charging in and really making a nuisance of themselves. It's going to be difficult. They're going to be hard. It's going to be hard times on that line. They're going to be very hard pressed to hold things together. Over here at the Footmen of Amras on the other wing, things seem to be going a little bit better. Got some defenders of Aglon charging into the fray here, reinforcing this portion of the line. Lots and lots of missile support here, preying on the more lightly armored wretches. The Ravagers here as well, and they've got my bowmen in place here. And we're going to begin to just continuously rain down pain upon the iron-shod legions of Angband and their close allies, Tolkien Gaurhoth. Get a good look of things up here, and you can see that it's a hell of a fight. Let's get down and dirty with it. Troll Guard are really doing a number here, and it looks like some of the Footmen of Amras are actually a little bit shaken. But luckily help is going to be on the way. We've got a nice layered defense here on the part of the elves. And over on this side, ooh, some nasty stuff here. The Valaraukar have been brought forward, and now the Uruloki are taking nasty bites out of my Warriors of Region, which I've brought forward to deal with these Balrogs. But nonetheless, my Warriors are going to hold the line here. Ooh, some of them are thinking about breaking. But morale is thankfully beginning to stabilize. And I've got some more reinforcements moving in as well. Ooh, big hits there from the fire into the Huntsman of Thargelion. Again, a really good lightly armored target, maximizing the damage of those Uruloki. Have some shield bearers here. Those are the stalkers that we saw route off earlier that have now reformed. And in the back, we've managed to deal with a lot of the wargs. Over here, you can see that the fight is not over yet. Wolf Riders of Angband now tired and winded, respectively, getting themselves into a position where they can threaten our back lines. And now the Uruloki are coming in with support. This is going to be ugly. Mounted Company of Kurufin obviously have clashed with these units. And a lot of Urukei's cavalry has been brought to bear in support as well. My Mounted Company did quite well for themselves and were helpful in shutting down these wars. You can see kind of the outcome of that battle there. A lot of dead Laugskaraz for not a ton of gain, I would say. Charge here from the Rokeni Magloro into the Balrogs. And so far, actually the Uruloki are now out of ammunition and have run into the fray here. And I see that, and I'm going to begin to commit more and more of my units. Got some shield bearers here of Region I'm going to throw into the fray. They are quite good against the Uruloki as well, being spear units. And my warriors of Region in particular are quite scary. And now you've got some Huntsmen of Thargelion as well. And the Uruloki are going to be not long for this world. This is not an easy thing for them to get through. And this is a lot of really hard-hitting, expensive resources committed by the Angband side to try and break our weight here. But we've managed to stabilize things, thankfully. And now I just want to draw attention to this over here as well. Got that unit of Franshik taking a little bit of a break here as they hide behind the shadow of this mountain, waiting for the opportunity to strike. Now, for what I'm sure you're all waiting for, the front lines. Archers of Amrod have now been committed forward, and the elves are really hard pressed here. There's a lot of numbers being thrown their way. Trollguard are spearheading that assault. It's looking pretty dire. Now Halberdiers from UMAD Commander, somewhat mauled, but still in really good shape. 160 men in that unit, pushing themselves into the fray. This is a tough one here. Although we're the, we got some Otarn Maitimo and some Defenders of Aglon. And now I'm starting to bring in some of my Sword Host as well to try and relieve the Sons of Feanor. But where some of the more heavy-hitting units are, like the Otarn Maitimo and the Defenders of Aglon, seem to be holding on fairly well. Ooh, lots of crossbow fire here coming in from the back. Tundra's Fox and I believe UMAT Commander's crossbow units opening up on our front line. Scarter High Longfangs tossing in their javelins. Not going to do a ton to some of these units, the more heavily armored ones, but against the Archers of Amrod, certainly will find their mark. Now I'm bringing in my Marksmen of Region as well. You can see them moving through the fray here into the middle of this big press. And both sides trading missile fire with each other, trying to support their infantry lines. And now we've managed to stabilize things. The Uruloki are gone. They are dunsies, at least that particular unit, and the Balrogs are beginning to fall. You can see some of their mighty corpses littering the battlefield here. But this is where it gets really ugly in the back lines. So we've managed to take a big, ugly bite out of a lot of the warg units in the back here. But there is a bit of a problem with blobbing here, which the Uruloki are going to be able to take advantage of. Now, we have many different types of cavalry in here. Some of them are quite good at fighting Uruloki. Others, not so much. The Knights and the Mounted Company are suited for this kind of fight, but the Lancers are not. And again, the blobbing. The Uruloki have high mass. They've got a devastating charge value. And once they get going, they're going to be able to just massacre their way through massed ranks of cavalry. Really do have to be a little bit more sparing when you take on Uruloki with cavalry units. Sometimes even as much as 1 or 2 units is enough to get the job done. And when you have this much cavalry, you can layer that attack. So I think going in a big old blob like this in an attempt to overwhelm them is definitely a problem. So I have my Mounted Company in there. I'm going to begin to pull them out and bring them towards our back here. And try and maybe make some use out of them, because they're certainly not needed over there. There's all the tools that they need are over on that side. And I think I also saw, yes, the approach of the Throng Sheik Warlords. So if we look at this here, big difference in percentage points between our side and theirs. It is, the casualties are climbing by the moment in this really, really fierce melee on the front. But it's still very much in the favor of the red team right now. Especially when they're able to do some nasty stuff like this. I think there's some Ash Priests there. Yeah, beginning to toss their fiery payloads. See if we can get another volley of them here. Oh, yeah. Armor piercing does a lot of damage, does morale damage in addition to. So things are looking grim for us, and now the Thrangsheik Wolfborn appear on the horizon. And I'll be honest, I thought we were done at this point, because we had all that other cavalry over here that was blobbed up around the Uroloki, and the Uroloki are doing heavy, heavy damage to them. They are beginning to fall, so they've lost a good amount of their HP at this point. But the casualties that we've taken in return are just massive, and now we don't have anything to throw in the way of these Thrangsheik Wolfborn. I'm trying to react, trying to fence them in here with a wall of spears. So I've got my spear host of the Girdle, and I can see him shifting his momentum back to the other side, so I'm trying not to present a big, big opportunity for these units to get through, but I think Artorias sees the gap there, and he's going to try and push his way through my lines, and I didn't see it in time, so I wasn't able to bring my spear host back in time. But this one, I did see it, and I am going to be able to get them into the front of this column and hopefully stop the unit, and then try and come in with my other one. But I desperately, desperately need to stop these guys from getting into our back lines, because if they are able to do that, they can really start to turn things around on us. So we are beginning to win now on the front lines. Take a look at the percentages there. We've brought it back a decent amount. We're still like 10 or 13% behind, but we are starting to win in a lot of places, and that was really important. So big charge here from the Thrangsheik Wolfborn, although actually not that big. Managed to turn around in time, but turning around like that does, of course, take its toll. So now we've got them pinned here. The Thrangsheik Wolfborn taking some fairly heavy losses. I think there's another unit of them over here as well. Yep, there's the second unit. Second unit of the Thrangsheik hitting the parts of the line that we were beginning to win on, that we were doing the best at. And so now some of the cavalry has come back from Uruke, using some of the infantry, doing our best to just tie them down. A nice big charge here from the Mount come to Kurufin into the back of the Thrangsheik. Looks like these guys have managed to rout off some of our units as well. I'm pulling off my Axe Guard. Something to throw in the way of those Thrangsheik so they don't hit our front line. Over on this side, I'm moving in with some spears, trying to stabilize the situation as best as I'm able. Got some sword host in there as well. But really the big, desperate, kind of game-changing fight here is trying to shut down the Thrangsheik Wolfborn. This is a game-winning play by DT Artorias, and if he can do enough damage with these units, that's game over for us. We're starting to pull it back now. We're not terribly far behind. We are beginning to make some progress. And these Balrogs here, the second unit of Balrogs beginning to die off, but again, where's those cavalry? Yeah, here they are, just causing problems. My Axe Guard trying to get in there, trying to do as much damage to these units as possible, at least rout them off if we can surround them. We don't seem to be even making a dent into their morale. Thrangsheik Wolfborn over here, having a real bad time. I have managed to catch them with a cloud of spears. There's some knights moving in as well. And I've got my my mounted company. What remains of them is one unit left in there. We might be able to rout these guys off. They are taking casualties quite quickly. But another big charge here by 11 of the Thrangsheik. It's going to hurt. And the Rangers of Heliborn already tired. You see some units there of Footmen of Amoras beginning to break off. And at the same time, the host of Morgoth pressing their attack. Moving in now with fresh reinforcements. Really pressing their advantage. You can see our line beginning to break in some places. The Ash Priest now joining the fray. And they are well positioned to break through our center here. And we don't really have a ton of reserves. I mean, I have some spearmen left. I think we've managed to chase off the Thrangsheik on this side. So I'm going to move in now with my spear host of the Girdle. Try and stabilize things in the center. I won't really be able to win, but their high melee defense will help me to at least hold. And hold long enough for us to win in other places. So I've still got some Axe Guard in the back here. We'll be able to shut down this breakthrough a little bit. And then over on this side, ooh, some nasty enfilading fire from the rear coming down from the red team side of things. But over here on our right wing, defeat is looking like a distinct possibility for the red team. We just need to be able to hold on here. I've managed to layer this up with a couple extra units of Doriath infantry. Whereas over on this side, we have convincingly defeated our enemies. So UMAC Commander here getting caught out by my Shield Bearers of Region as they manage to break through. hoping to try and stop them, which luckily we are able to do. We were able to shut down that volley, probably saving a few lives there, which is crucial at this point as we are moving down towards the end of it. But we are still very much behind, 70% to 56. Artorias did some serious work with those 2 units of Thrang Sheik, and it's going to be difficult for us to try and pull this back. Oh, there we go. Thrang Sheik Wolfborn, still 5 of them patrolling in the back here. It looks like some of the Gijak Scout has chosen to manage to break through, and now they're pressing Uruke and Scouts of Entertainment's cavalry from our own side of the line. Throwing in my sword host, trying to stop the bleeding if I can, but it's not an easy thing indeed. And they're still trying to shut down those Thrang Sheik. And now it's time for, I suppose, what you call a bit of a pro gamer move. So we still have a fair amount of cavalry left on our side, whereas almost all of the cavalry of the host of Morgoth has been shut down. They're down mostly to their infantry. Got some hunters and some wretches, and a large number of reinforcements, but not a lot of quality being brought to bear here. And so our units, still fairly healthy, still in good numbers, are going to be able, I believe, to staunch the bleeding here and beat back this final wave of Angband and Tolian Gauderhoth infantry. In the center, defenders of Aglon still looking very, very healthy, and they are managing to put the hurt on these Orcish units, who are getting more and more exhausted. And as they begin to lose their numbers and lose their fatigue, they will start to become extremely vulnerable to mass routs and breaking, even in the face of strong supporting units like the Thrang Sheik Ash Priests and the Bulldogs. There we go. Got some of my units launching a counterattack here, pushing on the wing, trying to finish off things on this side. And now our cavalry is going to have free reign. This is actually fairly significant. They pushed through here, which was, it's on its face, a good idea. They were surrounding us, they were breaking through, but they don't have any fast-moving units that they can use to push through and establish like some sort of like defensive perimeter, or any spear units that they were able to push through that mosh pit in the center and ward off our cavalry. So now our cavalry is pushing their way through here. Some of the Ironshod Ravagers beginning to break off. And Scouts and Uruke are going to just try and muscle through with their cavalry and do as much damage as they possibly can. So Scouts has got behind the lines here with his knights. We're going to slow things down just a little bit so we can get a good idea of what these guys are up to. And he's going for that rear charge. But there's still some Valor Raukar. There's a broadside there from, I think it was UMAD Commander's Ironshot Arbalest. Looks like he saw it coming and was able to react accordingly and very quickly. Roqueni Magloro doing their best here, trying to impact the morale of these units. And looks like the halberds here from Angband, from UMAD Commander, are going to turn around and begin to press these guys. That is going to have a hit on their morale. They're going to stop and then turn around and then move back into the fray against my Axe Guard and against my my Spear Host. And these poor Roqueni Magloro really just taking a beating here. They're very much on the verge of routing. It's a very, very bad thing for us here. Down to just a meager 5 now. Hopefully Scouts is able to pull them out in time. It seems like some other cavalry have managed to get through as well. Some of the Mounted Company. And we are seeing some routing here from Angband. Some Ironshod Ravagers, a very large unit of them. Arbalists. And now the way is open. You can see that the floodgates have opened here. And a lot of cavalry is going to pour through this gap that they've made for each other. Only cavalry they have left are some Hishbukraz Agulkalab, who are okay at fighting cavalrymen, but their defensive skills are so low that just about anything is going to be able to cut them down in great numbers very quickly. We got here Roqueni Magloro. Look at this. Did they just cause a mass rout on their own? Oh, yes, they did. Halberdiers from UMAD Commander breaking off here because of their depleted numbers and their high fatigue. Scouts is actually making an impact here with just a few knights, just a fraction of what he had left over. Scarhide Longfangs charging into the fray, trying to effect some kind of breakthrough. Got some Ironshod Legionnaires here breaking off from Tundra's Fox as well. Pardon me. And things are starting to turn around. If you look at the percentages here, 83 to 75. Yep, it's really starting to turn around for us. We're only about 8% behind, down from, like, at some points we were like 14, 15%. So we might be witnessing a bit of a miracle here. A lot of the reinforcements, the lower tier reinforcements, have begun to break off. Legionnaires here being absolutely massacred by Feanor light infantry and my heavy Doriath axemen. Still some options here. Wretches, I think, have reformed. Maybe it might be some Ravagers here that are have just reformed. So they're not completely shattered on this side yet. But we are getting there. UMAC Commander's units breaking off from the fray. Arbalists being harassed by the Mounted Company. Got some Balrogs coming in support. Pretty scary. But still, it's enough. It's enough to stop these units from firing, which is what's really important here. And now on this side, almost entirely, it has been broken. Our forces are victorious. We've got some remnants. They are fighting it out. But over here, UMAC Commander's bodyguard is surrounded along with some of Isengard King's infantry. Legionaries here looking pretty healthy. Oh, wow. There's actually a very strong pocket of Angband resistance here from UMAC Commander. Ironshot Halberdiers and some Legionaries as well from Tundra's Fox have been victorious in the center. Longfangs pushing in from our side of the map as well. And this is where it's still very much in the balance here. If you look at those percentages, it's still very close. 7% difference now. But we're both converging on the center, trying to surround them. That was our plan. We wanted to win on the wings and then converge on the center. So we have one on this side, and I'm going to press our advantage as much as I can. And being supported here by some of the cavalry from Uruk as well, who's running down these free units, making sure that they are not able to reform and present a united front. But there is a problem here. Some wretches of Angband stand in his way, and against that depleted unit, they will kill them very, very quickly. My Doriath infantry running those units off the field. I've got some marksmen here fighting against the wretches. I think I went after UMAD's Arbalists as well. Ooh, these unprepared wretches getting charged down, and you can really see the power of cavalry charges against low-tier spear units like this. They can be very cost-effective, as important to note. But if you catch them unbraced, and you catch them at a disadvantage, you can rout them off. Looks like some of the Ironshot Halberdiers there came in to help, but they weren't liking it. And the wretches of Angband still very much on the verge of routing, even despite the Balrog support, which gives them plus 10 morale. Marksmen of Region here doing their best. Oh no, and then the Ash Priests come in. This is where it gets ugly. Oh, we actually do manage to rout the wretches. A beautiful sacrifice there by the Mounted Company of Kudufin, with some help here from my Marksmen of Region, but now this has been shut down by the Ash Priests. Over here in the center, we've been largely victorious. There is still some Halberdiers here from UMAC Commander who are trying to fight it out, but we have brought those percentages back big time. Only a 4% difference, which is a miracle given where we were before. Let's see here, some more cavalry play. Loriders of the Pass moving in, trying to finish things off. Ironshot Ravagers here moving against my Sword Host of Region, who are already having a real bad time against the Legionnaires. And that's going to be pretty well all she wrote for my poor unit. I had about 40 or 50 of them, and I was feeling confident about being able to use them in some other action here, but good plays on the part of the red team have trod my dreams into the dirt. And they've managed to cut off some important manpower support that we were going to need. UMAC Commander's Bulldog bodyguard here holding up some of our reinforcements. At this point, it was still a very tense battle. 85 to 89. Really starting to change up here. So I've got a lot of my units here fighting against some wretches, trying to run down these units, but a second company has now come back. And now, more reinforcements over here. Ironshot Arbalists from UMAC Commander, who have either reformed or been held in reserve. And so now this pocket here, very isolated. We are just fighting wretches, but there is some support nearby, and they've got lots of numbers. Might be enough. And look at that. Devastating volleys from those Arbalists coming in, starting to turn victory into defeat for our side. Still got some light infantry over here, thank goodness. Some minor, small wounded units here of infantry from the Sons of Feanor. It looks like we've managed to shut down their attack in the center, and now we've got to... We need to reinforce our units. We can't fight alone in small pockets, because the remaining Angband forces are insufficient number and strength to potentially wipe us out. We need to get everybody together and move on the position being held currently by my bodyguard. You can see the Donathan Mablung in here, very depleted. but they are nonetheless in the fray, along with my general, and a lot of my really powerful, hard-hitting units, who are currently being cut down by this flood of Angband wretches, and also the Iron Shod Arbalists. So we need to move forward in force, and you can see we're beginning to enact that plan. So a lot of infantry moving over this direction, and they're going to be moving to shut down what's left of the Bulldogs. Bulldogs need to die. Ravages here are breaking off. And if we can kill the Bulldogs, we can kill the UMAC Commander's morale as well, because his general's over on this side. Cavalry from Uruke and from Scouts running down the survivors, making sure that they don't reform. This is really a matter of whose units reform more often and who ends up with enough numbers to overwhelm the other side. So my shield bearers did extremely well on this side, and they're going to move forward in pretty significant numbers. And there goes UMAC Commander's general, cut down by defenders of Aeluin and my spear company. Let's see what we got here. Stalkers of Thargelion. Everyone moving and converging towards this position, and they see what we're going for and what we're trying to do. And my troops have suffered heavily. They've been pushed back. There's only a small pocket of them still remaining, and that is their resistance is contingent upon the survival of my general. And they're holding out here, doing their best. There goes one of the enemy generals. And that's going to be significant here, too. That's going to be important. Once our reinforcements arrive, we can begin to try and surround the wretches, and that's really the majority of their numbers still available to them at this point. And I think UMAC Commander's Arbalists just ran out of ammunition, really got a lot of value off of them, and took a big bite out of my remaining forces who were doing so well. 92 to 88. That's a 4% difference. Still in favor of the red team. Let's go ahead, kick it into full speed here. Our very, very battered remnants of what was once a very mighty host of elves and men converging on this last bastion of Angband resistance here, as my forces are being squeezed between... Oh, no, the battle orcs have actually fallen now. Being squeezed between the remaining numbers of orcs. They're going to launch a mighty counterattack. Thingol himself fighting on the front lines, cutting his way through the Arbalists from UMAC Commander, who are going to break off almost immediately with the loss of his general. And the wretches still holding on. But now reinforcements have arrived. Let's go ahead and turn up the speed here just a little bit. I think there's still some Ash Priests fighting in the fray, delaying us. Artorius trying to delay us as much as he can. Some cavalry in behind them now. Not very much cavalry, but it's enough. It's just enough to get the job done. And there it is. They're going to turn around and try and countercharge. Hold off those cavalrymen. They are going to die. But now our reinforcements here have arrived. And the wretches of Angband are starting to think that maybe this fight isn't worth it anymore. Although surprisingly, for an exhausted militia unit, they are stubbornly fighting on. Otor and Maitimo have somehow come out of that fray. Very depleted, and now the wretches begin to break off. And these units try to countercharge the cavalry and get a piece of the Otor and Maitimo. But now they're beginning to waver, and there goes the general. And that's going to shatter the orc morale. They are done. Done like dinner. I think there's a small number of Ash Priests that still remain. They're going to hold things up for a little bit. So we're going to kick it up into full 6 times speed. And those units are being run down. And now it's just a some defenders of Aeluin here squaring off against the Ash Priests. Ash Priests proving their superiority in melee over even those elite elven swordsmen. And there's just the one guy left, I think. This insane, frenzied Ash Priest slaughtering the last of the defenders of Aeluin. And then my spearmen will come in just too late to save that elven swordsman. And that's going to be it. Really, really close game. 94 to 93. Big, big comeback there for the blue team. Let's take a look at some of the statistics here. But really, I mean, you can see just how, like, devastating this was for us. A lot of this is, like, This is healed casualties here, so I'm getting like 90 units of like Axe Guard who were dead back. We had maybe 200 units left out of a massive force of well over 5,000 men. That is devastating for us. Take a look at some of the casualties here. My units did pretty well. I was very surprised. Even my mounted company, well, they did okay. They did their job, basically. My sword host getting massive amounts of kills. They were fighting in the fray for the longest, I think. And unfortunately, we can't see the rest of my allies because they're not on the same faction as I am. But they did very well. Everybody did really well. Scouts getting the most kills. Uruke coming in a close third, but still getting over 2,000 kills. And the other side as well. Like, look at that. That's a lot of Elven dead. Our forces are significantly smaller than theirs. So, like, getting 1,800 kills, 1,200 kills, 1,400 kills, that's a lot of damage being done to us. And DT Artorias nearly swung that fight in favor of his allies with that attack from the Throng Sheik. 2 companies of them, which we didn't even realize that he had. We assumed he would have 1, but we didn't even see them coming. Like, they went all the way around that mountain range, and we didn't see it. And he bushwhacked us real well. And at the same time, when the Uruloki were cutting down a lot of the Feanor cavalry, he chose the best moment to jump on us, and it nearly swung the game in their favor and crushed us. So, really good game. I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. I will have more Silmarillion coverage in the future, and I believe I'll also have a meta video. If it's not out by the time that this is already seen, then it will be out shortly after. So yeah, I recommend you check that out as well. It's going to deal with cavalry. Last one dealt with infantry. So slowly but surely we're getting there and covering all the bases in the Silmarillion Total War meta. Hope you guys have enjoyed this so far, and I hope you join me for whatever comes next. Take care.